Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is match preview time, and it is Gillingham versus Sunderland at the Mems Priestfield Stadium this coming Saturday. And I'm sure you recognise the face on the screen. It is Graham from the What the Falk podcast. I'm sure you listen to him all the time and throughout the summer as we embarked on a journey with England, which unfortunately ended in heartache. But I'd much rather be talking about that now than I would Gillingham, to be quite frank. But first of all, Graham, thank you for coming on. I hope you're well.
No, it's not a problem, mate. I always enjoy coming on. Like I say, it's we've done lots of podcasts now, haven't we? So it becomes
done plenty, yeah.
Second nature. This is quite literally a down the pub kind of having a pint podcast that we do over all our different channels. So, and without a pint, I just had a glass of juice, which is not exactly that glamorous, but I'll take it. Water, yeah, health kick.
I should be drinking at the moment, being a Gills fan in the current form. Anyway, let's talk about that form. Last six in the league for Gills: draw, win, loss. So 5 points from 18 available over the last half a dozen for Steve Evans' men. For Lee Johnson's charges, it's a win-win, a draw, win-win, loss. So a single defeat in the last six, 13 points taken from 18 available, which is really good form for the Mackems. In terms of at home and on the road, Gills in their last five, because they've not played 6 home games in the league yet. Draw, win, loss, draw, loss. Sunderland, a little bit patchy as well, away from the Stadium of Light. Win, loss, draw, loss. So 4 points from 12 for Lee Johnson's men. And yeah, coincidentally, Graham, Gills no winning 3 at home in the league. That's MK Dons, Charlton and Wigan. And Sunderland no winning 3 on the road. That is Burton, Fleetwood and Portsmouth. Can you put your finger on why the away form's a little bit patchy compared to the rock solid form at the Stadium of Light at the moment?
It's another one, really, because I think the one game that we did win was MK Dons. I think MK Dons are a really good side, a really, really good side. And it was the first game after Russell Martin had gone to Swansea, which, well, that worked out, didn't it, so far? Obviously, they brought in the new manager. He was there like a day. So I think a few people kind of gone, oh, well, that wasn't MK Dons. But it was. They played well. Like I said, MK Dons is not a Russell Martin project. I think that project's an MK Dons project. And I think there's a reason that they've reacted really, really well to Russell Martin going, because I think you can implement that style and that plan regardless. But we went in and won. And to be fair, it was a mistake from Lee Burge that got their goal back into it, and it became a bit squeaky bum time at the end, but we came out 2-1. It should have been a bit more comfortable. Fleetwood, comfortable up until the last 9 minutes, give a silly goal away. The one thing with Fleetwood was Bailey Wright came back in, and I think regular listeners to my podcast, or some Sunderland fans might agree with me here, I don't rate Bailey Wright that highly, not compared to what we've got in terms of, well, Tom Flanagan's been the opposite of the Tom Flanagan I've seen for the past 3 years. He's been really good. He's been talking Callum Doyle through the game. Callum Doyle's phenomenal. He's just turned 18. He's from Man City, England under 19, 18 international. He's superb. The way he just steps out from the back is brilliant. But he was alongside Bailey Wright for that game and conceded a silly goal towards the end, which was probably avoidable, kind of a mix-up between Bailey Wright and Carl Winchester. And then you get the 97th minute and Bailey Wright decides to tug someone's shirt. Don't know why, bit silly in it. And then the Portsmouth game, I'm sure people would have seen, and we've spoke obviously off air about it. I'm sure people would have seen the Pompey game, and Portsmouth fans will listen to this will say, "Oh, sour grapes," and whatever. That's fine. That game was not playable, and I think it suited.
I agree. I've seen the footage afterwards, and it was like swimming. It was like a swimming pool in patches of Fratton Park.
Yeah, it was silly. It was almost like you could kind of take it on the chin, because you were just like, well, what am I meant to do? And I think if that was a draw at half time or 1-0 Portsmouth, I think that was getting called off. A few people said Portsmouth adapted better, and I think I said that in the aftermath, but I don't know whether they adapted better or whether just the way we play was just a total pain in the backside for that game. Basically, to cut a long story short, I think Portsmouth are a bit more, certainly more direct than we are, and a bit more maybe adept at playing direct. So it suited them that the middle of the pitch wasn't the most sodden part of the pitch. The wings, which we tend to use an awful lot, the ball wasn't moving. And I don't mean it was trickling a little bit. It literally wasn't moving to the point where there could have been a bad injury. I'm sort of over it now because you're going to get beat, you're going to get walloped in games, and lo and behold, Portsmouth away is always a tough game for us. And it's not to say that this result would have been different, but I think take away a silly tug shirt and Tom Flanagan not being suspended and Bailey Wright not playing at Fleetwood or not giving that silly goal away 9 minutes from the end and playing on a surface that is able to be played football on. I think the away form might have been a little bit different. Nice sunny day at MK Dons. We were by far the better team, if I'm honest with you. I'm sure MK Don fans might agree with that, but they were never into it. Might disagree with that, sorry, but they were never into it until we made a mistake. And then when you make a mistake, naturally the pendulum swings a little bit. But MK Dons away, Fleetwood away, Portsmouth away. MK Dons deserved the win. Portsmouth right off. Fleetwood lost of concentration, which can sometimes happen. It's a bit of a concern because you want to be winning home and away games, but in reality, that's never going to happen. I'm relatively confident we can sort that out. It wasn't until I really looked at it after the Portsmouth game that I realised we were patchy away from home. It was something that wasn't conscious, I would say, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, Gills are probably similar in their last three as well. MK Dons, unfortunately, Stuart O'Keefe got sent off after half hour and we'd taken the lead, and that completely changed the game. It absolutely killed us and all our momentum. And we took a battering at the end, but, you know, there was extenuating circumstances.
Good side as well.
Notably, Stuart O'Keefe had been stupid. Charlton with a whip for the post away from winning it. Danny Lloyd crashes one from the edge of the box against the base of the post with about 10 minutes to go, so that could have been different. And then Wigan, we were decent, we were really good, and we was in the game for an hour. But class eventually told we switch off once for their goal, and then you chase it and you get caught on the break. But obviously, the form's very contrasting on the whole at the moment. Gills are sitting just outside the relegations. I think we're fourth bottom and you're fourth top, which is another weird coincidence going into the game. And I think you've played a couple of games less as well. So can't wait for Saturday. But in terms of Sunderland on the whole, we want to just have a little look at them. I've wrote one question down. Why does it feel so different for Sunderland this season?
It's always hard to put a finger on it, but I think most things stem from the top, don't they? I think most positive feelings from a football club either come from results or the way that your club's been managed or the way your club's been owned. And I think everyone's seen a Netflix documentary, so I don't need to bang on about it. You could see that the ownership prior to Stuart Donald and the ownership with Stuart Donald wasn't what should have been happening, is the best way I'll put it without going too in depth. So when Kirill Lewis-Dreyfus comes in, you think 23-year-old billionaire, yep, brilliant, no bother. But unlike some football clubs, I think you like to have a soul within your football club, not just be bought out by, I don't know, like Saudi Arabians or something like that, with, you know, questionable moral beliefs. Someone likes to have a soul, and I think we want to make sure that we're doing it right. And if we were to get out of League One, I think if you get out of League One just by signing the best players and you have no real plan for when you get the Championship, you'll soon find yourself back in League One. And I think Sunderland fans are burnt a little bit because of Stuart Donald and because of the end of, obviously, Ellis Short's tenure at Sunderland, because it wasn't all bad, but the end was horrendous. So you're a little bit nervous about Kirill Lewis-Dreyfus when someone comes in, you think 23-year-old, yeah, it sounds good and all that, but he's basically put a plan into action, and that kind of helps. And I think if you'd asked me I think you kind of probably did on the third tier about the summer transfer and all that kind of stuff and everything that went on in the summer. There was points when we had no fullbacks and you think, what are they doing? Like, we've been told all this about, because we brought in Christian Speakman from Birmingham as our head of recruitment and whatnot. And obviously he brought the likes of Jude Bellingham through and stuff through Birmingham's academy. He's got a good track record on paper, but you were looking and thinking, well, what's he doing here? I think by the end of the transfer window, everyone was just like, you know what, he's done a cracking job. We brought in Dennis Serkin from Spurs. Spurs fans really not happy about that. I can't claim to have known much about him beforehand, but he's easily minimum Championship level and potentially more. If he fulfills his potential, looks that good. Huggins played a couple of games for Leeds in the Premiership last year. He looks excellent when he's came in. He looks superb. Elliot Embleton's came back a totally different player for me. I'm not going to say I was Ozzy's biggest fan, but he just looks a better player. That Blackpool loan sent him the world good, and that was Speakman's idea to send him on loan last season, which frustrated some people because they then got promoted and we didn't. But in the end, you know, in the here and now, it's worked out for us. Dan Neil's been phenomenal. I'm loath to speak about him too much because I don't want people to find out about him. But he's really been that good. Like, I think Sunderland do have gems in the academy, and obviously Henderson and Pickford did it in the Premiership, which is a different kettle of fish entirely. But Dan Neil looks like, on current form, one of the best prospects we brought through since those days of Henderson and Pickford. He looks really, really good. Carl Winchester's been phenomenal. I think kind of the ultimate, you brought in a few lads from Bayern Munich and as well, the Dejagu and Hoffman, the goalkeeper. I think reality, the reason it's different is because it feels that there's a plan. We're bringing in good, young, hungry players, not just to bring them in because they're young. They've been brought in with the right mindset, something to prove. And there's also that little bit of experience in there with McGeady, and Ross Stewart's only 24. He started well. It feels like there's a plan. We're not just going, well, we need to get out of this division and chuck money at it, which kind of feels like what Ipswich have done. And it feels like we've done that in the past. It feels like there's a plan in place where we go, right, if we do get promoted, we go into the Championship, we've got a good bunch of young players who've come from Premier League teams there or thereabouts. They can continue to improve and grow in the Championship if we do go into that division. There's a plan, there's foresight, and Sunderland haven't had that for ages. And then if you combine all of that with results on the pitch and position in the league, I mean, if we win off 2 games in hand, which is easier said than done because we've done the games in hand thing before, it doesn't always work out. But I feel confident that we will. The performances, league position, combined with everything I've just said before, and the players on the pitch, it's all going in the right way. If your club's seemingly owned correctly, if your club seems to have some sort of a plan and your club's winning games on the pitch, things start to feel a little bit different. And it does feel different. And I think as Sunderland fans, we're always first to go, oh, here we go. But we got tonked 4-0 off Portsmouth, and people were like, you know what, that's going to happen, fair enough. Such is life, that there's reasons for it, but get on with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I've written down pretty much what you've said. I wrote down Ross Stewart, 24 years old, Dennis Searchin, 19, Callum Doyle, 18, Elliot Embledon, 22, lad, the keeper, Thorben Hoffman, 22, Dan Neil, 19. Good blend of youth mixed with the experience of Tom Flanagan, Aidan McGeady, Aidan O'Brien, Luke O'Nien, Alex Pritchard, Carl Winchester that you've already mentioned. It just looks a really good setup at the moment, and a real good blend of the two. And you know, if you will have a sticky patch, because that happens. It's football at any level. You will have a rough patch where you struggle to win games, but you'd imagine that them names that I've just mentioned in the second list will be able to coax them younger ones through it, and you might come out of it relatively unscathed, your poor run of form. Whereas before, I think, certainly from an outsider's perspective looking in, I think over the last couple of seasons, certainly, I think a lot of fans of opposition clubs thought if you can stop service to Aidan McGeady, you in turn stop service to Charlie Wyke, and you in turn almost stop Sunderland becoming as much of a threat, at least as they are, if you don't stop them too. Whereas now, like you mentioned, you've got people that want to prove a point. Ross Stewart's probably gone, well, whether Sunderland fans think Charlie Wyke did enough apart from scoring, he scored a lot of goals, so I'm going to have to step up. So he wants to do that, and he started off brilliantly, got 7 in 10 in the league. Like you said, Elliot Embledon went out on loan. Frustrating as a fan, I'd imagine, to see him get promoted out of this division with someone else. But you mentioned the head of recruitment, and his name escapes me, sorry, so you can remind me.
Christian Speakman.
Speakman, that was it. It seems to me from what you said that there seems to be a bigger picture with Speakman rather than just the here and now. Like, so Elliot Embledon's gone out. It might be frustrating that he's got promoted with Blackpool into the Championship, which is where you want to be and beyond. But he's come back a better player. Now he can help you get to the Championship. And these players that you've signed, the Doyles, the Churchins, the Embletons, the Thorben Hoffmans and all that if you do manage to either sign them permanently or you can get them back on loan deals, because obviously they're all on different deals at the moment, it's almost like they'll know what Sunderland's about. They know how you play. They know the ethos of the club from top to bottom. And also they'll be ready for the Championship because they have that much natural ability. So you're almost giving yourselves a head start if, and it is an if still, you do get promoted this season and into the Championship. And it almost gives you a head start next season. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, it feels like that. I think you've summed it up really, really well. It sounds dead basic, but we've got a plan. And I know I give the jibe towards them lot up the road and whatnot, but I'm pleased we're building that way. I think it feels almost like maybe Boris Johnson could take a leaf out of our book, and if you're going to build back better, do it properly at least, and not just use them horrendous slogans. But it does feel like that. It does feel like like if we went up through the playoffs last year, brilliant, would have been great. How many of those players do I think would have achieved in the championship? O'Nien, McGeady. I don't think Charlie White's a championship striker. I don't. You're talking a big rebuilding project in a much tougher division. There are a lot of players this season are going to get a lot of League One experience, and they've got enough talent where I think they could make that step up. Yes, you're going to need to add to it if that happens, and there's a bloody long way to go before we do. But the likes of Callum Doyle, he's 17-year-old, who brought him in, and you kind of think, but he's been phenomenal. He's been so good. I would be really, really surprised if he's not in Man City's team the next 5 years. He looks that good. I mean, Man City have got an abundance of riches, but he does look very, very good. And he's in and around the England setup alongside Dennis Serkin. So it feels like maybe we've been in this division too long. For my liking, and I know people won't like us saying that because you are where you deserve to be. And I think Sunderland do deserve to be if you're talking performances on the pitch over the past few years or since we've been in League One. But I think if we go up this season, I'm so much more confident because I feel like the striker we've got is championship level. I watched Kiefer Moore a few seasons ago for Barnsley. We beat them 4-2. Josh Madger was our centre forward. Kiefer Moore was our centre forward. And I said on that night, both those strikers are at least high level championship. And I don't get much right, but I think I might be right with that one.
Writing that one down.
Yeah. And Ross Stewart feels like that. Like Ross Stewart, I mean, obviously I watched him a bit more up in Scotland, but I'm still a few hours away from Ross County, so I'm not necessarily that close to him. But he grafts, he's got to bring other people in the game. He runs a channel as well. I don't want to make the comparison to Charlie White, really. I think it's happened, but for me, he is better as an all-round player, and he's got better players around him as well. And I feel like if we go up, I think you could potentially get Callum Doyle on the second season loan. If we go up, you've got the likes of Hoffman, Dejacki, you'd hope we've done well. We've got agreements in place to buy them from Bayern Munich and Union Berlin. Dennis Serkin's on
Bayern Munich, Gills fans, that's correct. We are talking to a team that is getting people off of Bayern Munich. Don't adjust your sets.
Yeah, it feels nice. It feels good. But that kind of, both those signings came out of nowhere. I think Sunderland fans for a while said we feel like we need a change in goalkeeper. And I feel like Lee Burge gets a little bit too much stick, and he's the nicest guy on the planet. I
like him. He set up our equaliser last season, so I'm a big fan.
I'm pleased we brought someone in to at least compete with him, and I think Hoffman's done really well since he came in. But Hoffman, I mean, who would have thought going, well, let's have a look at what Bayern Munich's third choice goalkeeper's doing. And Speakman's thinking that he's going, right, let's not look at the best. Like, I love Chris Maguire, but Chris Maguire was a very good League One, high-level League One player. Will continue to be at least about 35, 36. Looks like we're looking at players that are going, right, who's good at like Spurs, Leeds, Premiership teams and not getting in that team that will potentially come to Sunderland for a good value. I think Serkin's got like a buyback of 6 million or something for Spurs. So if he achieves what you expect him to do, Spurs will take him back. And fair enough, but it's clever. And if you look at like Stuart Donald and literally the Will Grigg situation, oh, well, he scored loads of goals in League One, we'll just pay 4 million for him. That'll work, won't it? Nope, doesn't work. You've got this Speakman coming in who I was so skeptical of Dreyfus, and like not publicly, but Speakman and all these people came in because I'm so burnt as a Sunderland fan. Everyone we bring in just like torches the place and leaves it in ruins. Sometimes it feels, but he's done really well. And I must admit, it does build your confidence when you see the likes of like Jude Bellingham commenting and replying to his Twitter statuses and stuff like that. And you just think,
definitely.
Yeah, you think, well, that's a 17-year-old, 18-year-old Champions League England player that's playing for Dortmund, and he's commenting on him, crediting him. And then you think, well, if I can see that, so can the likes of Spurs is like really highly rated left back, so can that lad from Leeds who thinks, should I go to Sunderland? Should I not go to Sunderland? So it's kind of working out. Like, you know, young players will know what he's done in the past, and people will see what he's bringing into Sunderland, and people will see how Lee Johnson's managed. And I don't like the LinkedIn-esque of Lee Johnson. I don't like it. I don't like David Brent-esque. I'm just not a fan of it. But you know what? When you're winning games, players will see that and they'll go, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe that's not my kind of speak, but he's winning games. The head of recruitment's brought through Bellingham. Serkin's doing really well. Doyle is now getting known. Huggins is now getting a game. Like Carl Winchester's gone from a good defensive midfielder to like the best right back in the world. Maybe a tad overhyped, but
just Europe.
He's got
Just in
Europe. Yeah, I would say Europe potentially. Northern Ireland are very, very lucky to have him. But you see stuff like that, and you start feeling like there's a bit of a plan. And every club wants that plan, doesn't it? Every club wants to
100%.
have an understanding of where the club's going, and because you can take the knocks a little bit more if you know where the plan is.
That's it, like you said, if that had been
Yeah.
last season or the season before, and you'd got dicked at Portsmouth, you'd have all been a bit sort of depressed about it and like, oh, here we go again. But you know that again, it comes back to bigger picture. It's one of them. It was a game on a pitch that probably shouldn't have been played, and like you said, Pompey fans would probably have a different opinion of that. But it wasn't a performance or a display or a result where you went, oh, that season ending and we're not going to get promoted now. It was right. We stick to our beliefs and we get ourselves up and we dust ourselves down and we crack on the week after.
It was great. We went to Lincoln on a Tuesday, and the pizza trophy's got his fans and not his fans, and it's nice when you win it. We've been at Wembley with it twice. Once we could go, once we couldn't go, and obviously the time we won was the time we couldn't go. But it was nice. We went to Lincoln, who had 6 or 7 first teamers. Like Montsma, Maguire was in the team. That they had players that were, good players for Lincoln and first team players, and we put in a bunch of like academy kids mixed with like Pritchard, Aidan O'Brien, like a couple of the older ones. I'm sure they don't mind me saying that. I'm 35 myself. They're only about 28, 29, so they'll be all right with that, I think. But the likes of Dan Neal banged another 25-yarder, and the likes of I think Stephen Wern got the second one on his debut and stuff like that. And you see all these sort of players coming in, and you see all these players from the academy level stepping up to go to Lincoln and winning. And you go, right, so that thing I wasn't that worried about after Portsmouth because I thought, take it on the chin, it's fine. And now our basically under 23 team's going to be half a decent Lincoln side with most of their first team players. Maybe I am right not to be too worried about these odd little doesn't happen, because the plan that I'm looking at and believing in makes a lot of sense based on the results on the pitch. So yeah, it's just having a plan. That's I've said about 7 times, but I'll repeat it.
Well, no, it makes sense. That's what it is, isn't it? Like you're saying, if you can see that people are working towards a goal and everyone's pulling in the right direction, you know that as a football fan, you're intelligent enough to realise that there's going to be bumps along the road. But if you eventually get to where you want to be, you take the bumps. But in terms of the more immediate and Saturday, you're in Lee Johnson's shoes at the moment. I'm not sure, you've probably got bigger feet than him because he is fairly small. But what's the 11 going to be for Sunderland come 3 o'clock at the Priestfield on Saturday afternoon?
There's a question mark over Luke O'Nien because he picked up a rib injury after about 5 minutes of coming on against Lincoln. So I think there's a question mark on him because they've never really come out and said anything. He's had a dislocated shoulder for about a year. It just keeps popping out randomly. It hasn't popped out for a couple of weeks, but he's definitely damaged his ribs. You can tell when O'Nien's going down to win a free kick, and you can tell when O'Nien's going down because he's hurt, and he was definitely the latter in the Lincoln game, and they haven't really come back and said anything. So I think we'll start with Hoffman in goal. I think there's potentially a question mark on whether Huggins comes in for Winchester, which I feel dirty for saying because obviously I love Carl Winchester, but I know. But Huggins was really impressive against Cheltenham in the 5-0 win, and he played at left back, but he's a right back. He came in at left back because Serkin had concussion rules. Serkin will definitely play because he's great. He's really in form. He missed that one game against Cheltenham and had adequate replacements, but Serkin's our left back. In defence, I would pray and hope he plays Callum Doyle alongside Tom Flanagan. They've like a good partnership. I would be surprised if he changed it. He came on at half-time. He was injured against Cheltenham. Came on at half-time against Portsmouth. For me, I wouldn't play Bailey right. I just wouldn't. I think he'll get drawn into the battle with Verdan Oliver. I think Callum Doyle will try his best to outclass whoever he comes up against at this level. And I'd like to think he will. He's playing for Man City. He should feel like that. Right back could be Huggins or Winchester. I'm not entirely sure. In midfield, potentially a worry there because O'Nien might not be fit. Although he's a bit like the bionic man. We've said that a few times in the past, and he's turned up and played all right. Corey Evans is injured. Good player, but we were kind of warned about that, and he gets injured every couple of weeks, so fair enough. So Daniel will be in the middle, the best of the three, if I'm honest, by far. Potentially, you could then put in, say they're both injured. I think O'Nien will play. I could be wrong with that, but the fact that it said nothing indicates that maybe they're hoping he's going to be fit, which I think O'Nien will play. But say he doesn't, I think we'll probably go with Elliot Embleton will probably drop deep in the middle. instead of being in the 10, and then he can bring Pritchard into the 10. On the right, you'll probably see McGeady, which is kind of what he's been doing recently. He's obviously predominantly left McGeady, but he's been going on to the right recently, and it's kind of worked. Mm-hmm. You don't expect him to cut in all the time. You don't quite know where he's going. His delivery's great with both feet, which means that on the left-hand side, well, he could put a few people in the left-hand side. We started with Aidan O'Brien on the left, but I think for me, I would probably go for, if Lyndon Gooch is fit, I'd probably put Lyndon Gooch, truth be told. I know not everyone will agree with me on that, but I think you miss a little bit with him when he doesn't play sometimes, even if it's just effort, and he's got the ability to bag one out and out sometimes. So I think I'll probably play Lyndon Gooch. I think I'd play Gooch over O'Brien most times. Then up front, it's got to be Ross Stewart. But the only real injury doubt that we have that I can think of is Corey Evans will probably definitely be out. I think they haven't confirmed that, but he's been out of the Northern Ireland games. He pulled that pretty early, so I'd be surprised. Or 9 potentially unfit. And Callum Doyle did pick up a knock, but then came on at half time against Portsmouth. So he was obviously fit enough to be on the bench and then fit enough to be introduced to half time. So I'd be surprised if Callum Doyle's anything since. And I think he's been away with England under 18s during the week. So I'll be surprised if Callum Doyle's not fit. So I think Hoffman, there's a potential actually that he could put Huggins in at right back and bring in Winchester in defence and in central midfield. Sorry, if O'Nine's injured, that might be another option. You might not find Pritchard in the 10, might not drop Embry, you might keep Embry open in the 10. Put Huggins at right back. If Evans and O'Nine aren't fit, you could see potentially Winchester and Daniel next to each other. So that could be a different option. There's options there, which is nice, and it feels nice saying that we've
a lot of options. Gills fans, so many options.
There's also Dejaku from Bayern, for ex-Bayern Munich, and
just a Bayern Munich player as well might play. Can't wait. Right, Gills, I'm going to do ours, Gills fans. Right, Daniel Phillips is out, David Tatonda's out, so we're left with about 18 players. So they're going to be involved at some point, I'd imagine. For me, I'd go Jamie Cumming in goal. I'd go Ryan Jackson if he's fit at right back. Max Amar, Jack Tucker centrally. Robbie McKenzie will have to switch to left back, I think. I'd bring Stuart O'Keefe into the 11 at the expense of Daniel Adsey because I think he's been off the pace in recent games. I'd have him sat in front of the back four, Carl Dempsey and Alex McDonald flanking him in a 3, and then I'd go for Dane Oliver up top through the middle, and I'd hope that Danny Lloyd and Mustafa Carriol are both fit enough to start to provide some width and some dynamism out on the flanks to try and get good service into the big man. Score prediction. I wasn't feeling confident when this started, and then I've just heard Graham read out all them options, and I'm even less confident now. Can Sunderland declare? Is that a thing? It's not cricket, but what's your score prediction, Graham? And just say it quickly, just like you're ripping a plaster off.
2-0 Sunderland. 2-0 Sunderland.
I can't disagree. I've written down 2-1 to Sunderland, and I'm hoping that Gills can get on the score sheet after 3 blanks in a week. That's not been great to watch, but yeah, I think on current form, comparative squads, which you can't ignore. I know heart and desire and willingness to run through brick walls and all that comes into play, but I don't think that's a question mark over Sunderland at the moment as well, and I just think they'll have too much quality for us. So unfortunately, I'm going to Gills 1, Sunderland 2. Right, Graham, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed that as always. Don't forget to go and check out Graham on Twitter. I will put his personal and the What the Falk podcast details in the description at this end of this video. If you are looking to lose weight and play football with like-minded individuals, you can sign up at the Gillingham site using the code Gills in the Blood to get your subscription with Man v Fat Football for just £1. Right, myself and Boz and hopefully Stocky will be back on Saturday with a match day live, which I'm really looking forward to. But until next time, up the Gills.